Impact Podcast by Innovate Social, where we bring you new perspectives and stories related to social entrepreneurship and how you can create social impact in your life, business, and career. I am your host, Neetal Parekh. In this episode of Neetal Notes, which is a segment of the Impact Podcast by Innovate Social, we're going to talk about tribes and this modern concept of tribes and tips on finding your tribe. But before we chat about that, we have to get to tribes. So I want to jump back and think about this concept of following your passion. And I remember watching an episode of Oprah, I believe it was during her last season of the Oprah show, when she interviewed this successful film director, Tom Shadyac. Now, he's known for his comedic films and has had a lot of success. And he also has this pretty incredible story of living in this huge mansion in LA, living a kind of larger than life lifestyle and having this serious biking accident and then going through this kind of self and spiritual exploration, which led him to sell his big mansion and move into this 1,000-foot space and really rethink the trajectory of his life and where his energy and time were spent. And since that time, he's given away a large portion of his fortune and written a lot about the power and value of having less. And he's written a book called Life's Operating Manual. And he has also directed a film called I Am, in which he looks at happiness and fulfillment. And one of his key takeaways, both in his interview and in his work, has been this idea that it's up to us to follow our passion. And he goes so far as to say that when we don't, it could actually destroy us. But on the show and in his work, he talks about this idea that when we follow our passion, it can clarify the path ahead and it can enable this sense of compassion and collaboration, which can create the sense of fulfillment within us. And in that episode with Oprah counters with one of her famous quotes, "Follow your passion and it will lead to your purpose." And so much of her work is all about finding purpose, identifying purpose and following purpose. So that kind of gives us the segue and helps to start to connect the dots between these concepts of passion, purpose, and then the next step, which I would say would be finding your tribe. So from my experience of really taking this on seriously, I remember watching the episode at a time when I was thinking really deeply about how I could weave social impact more meaningfully into my career and work. And that has led to this amazing journey, enlightening journey of blogging, writing, podcasting, interviewing, meeting all of these amazing people and learning these amazing concepts in social impact and social entrepreneurship. And while that has been so fulfilling in so many ways, it's led to the next question that I didn't even know a few years ago. And that question is, who is in the tribe of people that are ecstatic about the work that I'm doing? And for any of our work, how do we get to that tribe? And to really delve into this idea of tribes, we can look to Seth Godin, and he wrote a book a few years back called Tribes, and he defines a tribe as a group of people connected to one another, connected to a leader, and connected to an idea. And he says that a group need only two things to be a tribe: a shared interest and a way to communicate. So when you take that zoomed out view, this modern view of a tribe, you can see that tribes can exist and coexist in a lot of different scenarios in the modern world. They can be online, they can be offline. There's so many different ways we can think about tribes. And so I wanted to share a few things. I wanted to share 8 things about what I have learned and am learning about finding my tribe. And I hope it can be useful for you wherever you are in your journey as well. So number 1 is it can take some time and require some patience and perseverance to find your tribe. And that is so true because we don't always know where our tribes are. And we may think, but we actually have to go out and really do some work around that. Number 2 is that this process of finding a tribe seems to work best when we are authentic. When we are authentic and even vulnerable and genuine, we can attract the people who can benefit most from our life experience and our message. Number 3, and this is very surprising and interesting, is that the tribe surrounding our passion and purpose may not always be comprised of people and organizations that we might have imagined. And this has been very interesting because we can't assume that even if the topics are the same, that people are in the same place of their journey, that they will want to be part of a tribe that's around the same topic or, in the same space. And I think we have to honor that and honor ourselves as well. Number 4 is that positive intent can help us be grateful versus grumpy or some other, emotion about this tribe finding process. That, sometimes we feel like we've done all of this work, right? We've looked deep inside of our souls. We've worked so hard. And now the challenge is engaging with people. We think it'd be so obvious. But I think if we really put positive intent of the people around us, that they may love that we are on this path, but they may not be in the right place to jump into our tribe or support in every way possible. And I think that's totally okay, because I'm sure every day while we're so focused on our passion and our purpose, we may not be jumping into a bunch of tribes too, because we're trying to stay focused. So I think that's totally fine. And then it also just makes it so much more valuable for the people that are in your tribe and who stand beside you, stand behind you, stand with you. And so you can really honor and respect and celebrate the people that are there. Number 5 is that I really think that today's tribes operate with this idea of the law of 2 feet, meaning that you only stay in something as long as it's valuable and useful. And so that's the same thing with tribes. There is movement in tribes. So people will kind of come and go and shift in and out depending on how useful it is for where they are in their journey. And I think that's fine, because all of this shuffling in and out helps cross-pollinate ideas and helps the tribe and the concepts evolve versus stagnate. And that is a nice segue to number 6, and that is that tribes are about growing together. So there's a lot of growth that can happen, and that's why people may stay in a tribe over time, not because they had the same questions that they had when they started, but that as they have continued to learn, engage, become more sophisticated about what they are seeking out of the concepts, that the tribe they are running with is also expanding, evolving, and growing in those ways. Number 7 is that we're part of multiple tribes, and that kind of takes the pressure off. This is not like, we're not pledging allegiance to one group. It's not like that. We have multiple tribes, and they're comprised of different things, our hobbies, our interests, our family. So our passion and purpose is one tribe that we are part of and that we will probably lead because it's so genuine and authentic to us. And number 8 is that tribes can accelerate our growth, and they can bring us peace of mind, a sense of joy, and they can help us realize our visions. And I put that in there because the process can be long and challenging. We may think, what's the point? Why even go through all this? But the reason is, when we find people who are ecstatic, there's nothing more motivating than that. There's nothing more motivating, and I can speak to this, than getting an email of someone saying, oh my gosh, I listened to your podcast, or I read something you wrote, and it's helped clarify something for me. So when we find those people, we just have to find ways to engage them, connect them. So thanks so much for listening, and I want you to know that I'm thinking a lot about tribes, and we have some really cool things coming up of ways to engage. And I would love, right now, all of the content that is going out there are ways to engage, but there's so much more potential. So please keep a lookout, keep following us, keep staying engaged. And I'm so excited to meet the people and really work with the people that are in the tribe of the work that I'm doing. So until next time, go forth and find your passion, discover your purpose, and take these steps to find your tribe. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Impact Podcast by Innovate Social. You can find show notes and more information on innovatesocial.com. That's INNOV8 social.com and theimpactpodcast.com. If you love this podcast and find it useful, you can help spread the word by subscribing on iTunes, writing a review, and even sharing it with your friends and networks. And if you really want to step up and get involved, you can even sponsor podcast episodes. Just email podcast@innovatesocial.com. One impact story at a time, let's find new ways to reach our impact potential together.